It's another week in the For Your Reference household, and it is another course. Ever so delectable, 2023, the fourth reference degustation in the For Your Reference podcast, OT. And this is you listening to all the cool people in your life and booking a reservation to a restaurant that you didn't even know about. Friends and lovers, thank you for joining us on a month-long celebration of the finest Takashi Miike madness. But we will say it is hard to find visitor queue. Perhaps it is that endangered underwater specimen that you can sample. Maybe not in Atlanta. But I will put a general trigger warning for prostitution, sex work, abuse in general. Also, happy Valentine's Day, OT. It had to be this, right?
It had to.
Shout outs to our beloved Ben. It all just worked out all together. I think most suitably, especially in regards to visitor queue. Let's get on with the show. Konnichiwa, friends and early bird lovers. Welcome back to the For Your Reference podcast. You got your host, Katie.
And Oti.
Assemble the milky family puzzle pieces of extensive screws, booty mics, and a whole lot of oil and vinegar. Look, OT, I can do it by myself.
Oh, I can see.
Discover self-satisfaction, the mysteries of life with Visitor Q this week.
Wow.
Ooh, yeehaw, yeehaw, yeehaw.
Wow, you're up for this, aren't you?
I am very excited. Let's get into general stats and information, friends and lovers. Before we get there, spoiler, 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 lactate, lactate, lactate.
Wow.
Visitor Q, directed by the love and lauded Takashi Miike. I said it when we did our audition episode, which between the open kimono Kendall succession of it all, it's actually been about a month since we did audition because we needed time to digest this film.
Yep.
And the chef recommended we digest it again. I am still trying to understand, but I'm absolutely enjoying this world, friends and lovers. In regards to writing, we have Itaru Era. This film was released in March of 2001. In way of cast, we have Kenichi Endo, Shangiku Ochira, as well as Kazushi Watanabe. Nice. Wow, wow, wow. Thank you to our most brave patrons that have joined us on common and recurring themes throughout the Takashi Miike run. Obviously, in regards to Visitor Q specifically, we are going to get into our first impressions, OT. Again, someone that we have loved for a long time, Ben from Filmbusters.
Mm-hmm.
This was, I not that I'm pushing it on to him, but he recommended this film.
Stop absolving yourself from this.
I'm one of the two popes.
This is not a Mel Gibby Passions of the Christ absolving yourself, Posh's pirate nonsense. No.
I would argue there was more torture porn in that film. But anyway, I just wanted to read this based off of the recommendation from Ben. You have to do Visitor Q simply because of how batshit crazy it is.
Batshit crazy, weirdly, doesn't even start with this movie. This, like you said, the first time we watched this movie, we needed some time to just comprehend exactly what we'd watched.
Yeah.
Because there were parts in the movie where I couldn't imagine what I was watching. Uh-huh. And, you know, there's very few things that surprise me. And
just tell us you have your incognito searches on hard mode, okay? Just tell us that. Let's save some time.
I don't know why I've not heard of this movie. And
in your blue movie perusing?
But wow, it just knocked me out. I think I didn't expect anything of this graphic nature to happen. Every time that I thought we've reached the summit, it continued going up. Mm-hmm. I'm like, bro, we're already up there. Calm down. I think once you resign yourself to the world this movie depicts and you surrender yourself and you accept it, then you can start to fully enjoy it to some degree.
Because you sound like Keiko, the mum.
Well, there's a mysterious man visiting us, and boy, oh boy.
Laying down the bin liners is not foreign to us. Let's just say that.
No, like this, it's definitely not for the faint-hearted. It's definitely not for everyone. But the things that, when you look beyond the graphic nature of everything that happens, the storytelling is quite incredible.
Yeah. There is a world that is built on depraved absurdity that works to a high impact that crescendos in this film. The layers are morose and the payoff is delicious.
Yeah.
You are not standing by me, are you?
I am.
On the off chance that people listening have actually watched this film.
Well, we've watched it twice now.
In honor of Keiko, instead of saying pussyfooting, I'm going to say nipple footing. We're not going to nipple foot around this. This was a great fucking film.
It was. And weirdly, I thought the second time I'd be acclimatized to the nature of the movie. Yeah. That didn't happen. It still shocked me every single time. I knew what was coming, but it's still seeing it. It shocked me.
That's interesting because even in our audition recording for the episode, we said that it wasn't fault through the film, but it didn't hit the same notes as if you were watching it the first time. But you're saying Visitor Q pays off every time.
Like, we love people who lean in.
Yeah.
If you're ridiculous, lean into that.
Yeah.
Fully.
Yeah.
And they don't hold anything. They know that this probably won't be for everyone, and they're fine with that. But they just leaned in into the absurdity, into the provocative nature they knew this would be.
Yeah.
Or even possibly draw parallels to Audition. It still amazed me.
Oh, yeah. And the dad is like tethered. The dad is a Jordan Peele tethered trademark to Oyama in Audition. You know, when Oyama was like, oh, no, what do you mean? I want a woman of my age.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, anyway, we'll talk through the themes and I'm very excited, but I guess just capturing off the first impressions, you know, very recently we talked about Megan, right? And we talked about being so ready for the idea of an R-level gore, you know, killer doll, right? Because we're primed for Chucky. We were ready for the premise. And we, like you said, we were leaning all the way in for that sort of world. I think one of the strengths that you and I have is we're ready to dive into whatever the premise of a film is. You know, even after we had watched it the first time, we were reading reviews, you know. I think we had a good sense of how we felt about the film. I think we really enjoyed it. Something that was very surprising about a lot of the reviews were people were saying it took multiple watches for them to peel back the initial shock, oh my God, this is uncomfortable, and then actually unpeel it and appreciate the humor in this film and the incredulousness and a lot of the there was a lot of fun moments in this film, but it was interesting to me because when we watched it, I think we were all the way in and we said, spoiler, spoiler, spoiler. We were all the way in as the mic inside of the dad's ass. And friends and lovers, we know that you like listening if you haven't watched what we're talking about. You might even think we're making up plot points in this film. Either way, we're going to have a good time.
That we are.
So in regards to the themes, we have general sort of questions. Cinematography and visuals. How did you feel? Because we talked about Audition and remembering, maybe not necessarily remembering the plot of Audition, but we really remembered the visuals of Audition and the way the film was shot. What did you think about Visitor Q?
The aspects of it that felt similar to Audition to me, but somehow it felt older, like it came way before.
Or maybe it was because it was more bold, because you wouldn't think Audition was more commercial and made for cinemas, but once you've watched Visitor Q, Audition feels like a fucking Happy Meal at that point.
It does. It does. Bloody straight blue movies will be made for cinema at that point.
The blue meal, right, OT?
Mm-hmm.
The next theme we have, I'm so glad it came out while we were watching Audition, and I wasn't sure how it was going to flavor the rest of the films that we're covering, but I'm so glad that I wrote it down. And it was a commentary on Japan/the world.
I think it's quite interesting because I think it turns the lens sort of inward and looking at human nature.
Yes.
You know, and it sort of felt similar to Audition as well, you know, especially with the protagonist where when they look deep within,
yeah,
you know, we get to see the world around them through their eyes, and it's super flawed.
Yeah.
It's all flawed.
Mm-hmm.
They're not exactly the best people.
Yeah.
And at the end of it, when you start reflecting, you know, was the dad at the end of it? What did it all mean?
Yeah.
You know, so I felt like it spoke to a lot of things that I'm sure we'll come to.
Yeah.
And wow.
Didn't you hear Jon Snow visit a queue? You don't understand a thing. I absolutely love it. And yeah, you're right. We can spend a bit more time talking about it once we get through all of the themes. What's really interesting is, you know, when we were covering Parasite, I did research into understanding chaebols and, you know, like the Korean economy and understanding social class and that sort of thing. I don't know, like there was something about watching Visitor Q for the first time and also the second time where I didn't want to do research because I also feel like the way that it was packaged in this film, I just fucking got it. Maybe it was like you say, you can ground it to just family with fucked up family dynamics, right? This was like up to this was raised up to the ante 1,000%, right? But I think there are some universal themes in having fucked up family dynamics. And the way that it was done in such an absurdist sort of nature played to really high effect to me. Because again, without doing any research or, you know, fully understanding the society in Japan and that sort of thing, there's a lot of, you know, I guess you could call it stereotypes. There's a lot of default sort of thinking in regards to how Japanese people are perceived. And that's how I kind of saw it. You talk about inshallah as a society or as a people. I kind of looked at this as Takashi Miike's way of, you know, just shining a light, holding a mirror, putting a lens onto, you know, issues that aren't necessarily talked about, right?
Yeah, like the transgressions of the taboo. We know shit happens out there.
Yeah.
That we don't talk about.
Yeah.
That don't really get mentioned at all.
Yeah.
And when you're faced with that reality staring down at you or they're at the end of the screen, what do you do?
Exactly.
You know, it's easy to just look away and pretend that aspect of the world doesn't exist when it does.
But it's still happening.
Right?
Whether you look or not, it's still happening.
Yeah, there's that visitor that comes to us that is super fucking dark in nature and confronts you or tries to say, hey, we're not all fucking singing kumbayas out there.
Like, this is not on. Like,
that's not on.
Like, this is not correct.
Right? The aspects of people and humans, that's fucking dark.
Yeah.
Let's face that and see what that is.
And I definitely want to come to it. The father, I would say, was the most interesting character in this. But when you think about, you know, Asian men represented in the media, they are emasculated, right? And we even see these sentiments that the father shares throughout the film. But again, it is a bit too juicy and muy caliente. So we will come back to it. But I just found it really interesting in the way that it was explored. It was fucked up in a lot of levels, but it was always for a purpose, you know. It wasn't just to shock you for the sake of shocking you.
Yeah. And I think when Dexter's talking about his dark passenger, he's met the visitor.
Okay, new young blood. But, you know, even in regards to Keiko, the mom, sexual liberation is something that I always advocate for. And that was also one of my most jubilant moments in the film. And again, we will come to that, but it talks about the repression. And, you know, we can joke about the milky puzzle pieces and the way that her titty milk like shot all over Mickey's like photo as well. I guess we can draw parallels between like the apple, like Adam and Eve, like the the young innocent daughter biting the apple. But it really, the way I saw it was, Keiko coming back and, restoring her sexual prowess, right? And we even see later on in the film that Dad's like, oh, I've never seen her this happy and this glowing since before we were married. It's like, yeah, you're the fucking problem, bruv.
Yeah, 100%.
So I really, really, really loved that. And obviously we will touch on prostitution as well, which also included Mickey too. And, these are things that we don't necessarily talk about. And, inshallah, within Japan, but also within the world, there's probably a perception of, Japan's doing great, which is true. But, there are also issues like, I talk about a talanoa for the fale. Like there's a discussion for inside of the house. And I kind of felt like that's what this film was. Watch out for my visitor tea for my Tongan family, hey? If you hold the head steady, OT, we'll milk the cow.
Yep.
One line that I do want to say here, it was at the start of the film. And I guess just so we have it on the record, that first scene was very uncomfortable.
It was.
It will never not be uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's weird because, and the thing with the naming of the chapters, when it started, I thought it was, okay, cool. Have you ever done it with your dad? I was like, oh, is this tongue in cheek or what?
We were side-eyeing Ben at that point.
I was like, oh, okay, cool. Let's see where this goes.
Yeah.
And it's exactly what it says.
Yes.
And we quickly got to find out because the next one was, have you ever been hit in the head with a rock? And I'm like, okay, are they going to just hit someone with a random rock? And I was like, okay, so this is actually what happened.
Yeah.
It took me a while to believe that's actually what's transpiring.
Yeah.
But
it was a shock to the system. It was like, this is the film we're making. This is the film you're watching.
Yeah, within the first 3 seconds of the movie.
Yeah.
You're knee deep into that.
Yeah. Poor choice of words, but okay.
Yeah.
I'm coming in you.
And this is where you also see the sort of thing with...
It was funny.
With the reluctant man.
Oh, yes.
Oh, I can't do this. Oh, no.
Yeah.
Only for them to be, quickly veiling their bloody restraint.
Let's remove the pretension. You know why you're here.
But we do see the post-nut clarity kicking in and then being like, ooh,
yeah,
this was wrong. Don't tell your mother.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ugh.
Absolutely agree. Let's move on to the next sort of general theme here. I guess we'll see how much time we spend on this, but this is a very interesting theme or general question. What is real and what is not? Did you take this film as an allegory or did you take this film literally? Or were you traversing between the two?
Oh, I thought it was all allegorical through and through.
Right?
Yeah, because...
OTR didactic daddy.
Yeah, and I think those allegory was doing this because taking it on a plain sort of level wasn't even an option for me just because of its provocative nature.
Yeah. I think there's a Mickey-ocative nature because it was more than provocative.
True. I just had to think, surely there's something else.
Yeah.
Right? There has to be.
Yeah.
And that's why I had to sit with the first viewing so much to even try and see how I can comprehend everything that I just watched.
Yeah.
And even in the second viewing, it adds to that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So with we could say, what did you think of The Visitor? What did it signify?
Yeah.
It could be like how the media is right now in our lives. Comes into, we welcome it to our house. We really don't know anything about the sources.
I don't know. It seems like you're welcoming the media.
No, I'm just saying.
Where are the pinhole medias in this room?
We consume so much shit. It affects people on their daily lives.
Like a surveillance, like a Big Brother type thing? Or something?
Yeah. Not even Big Brother. Just what we learn and what we perceive of ourselves comes straight from what we consume. And The Visitor does the best in exposing the family's weaknesses and their plights and their problems. And it's up to them to say, okay, so once our family dynamic, which hasn't been great, is exposed and we see all the flaws in our ways, then yeah, why not?
I get that. I understand that. Friends and Lovers, I'm pretty sure OT got further in Westworld than I did. But after watching this film, I understand why Westworld exists, because I felt like, perverted or not, I was visitor Q. Like, I felt the audience was being given an insight into this family and the ways, the fucked up ways that they interplayed with each other, if you'll pardon the pun. It was, Visitor Q probably had more of an active role than we did as an audience. But it was definitely uncovering and learning and unlearning, the way that this family operated or the way the family dysfunctioned. And it's interesting that you say that none of it is real. And I wonder, and maybe it will take, a couple of years, a couple of rewatches. Did we feel the need to not ground it because it would have been hard to consume it for what it is? Or is that the natural sort of levitation that this film evoked? You know what I mean?
I think it had to be a shock to the system for us to accept anything less or other.
Oh, I love that.
Because we perceive so many things differently from other people. Like the son, you could just see him as a dickhead, which he is.
He is a dickhead.
He is a dickhead.
He's a dickhead for a reason, but he's still a dickhead.
I feel like there's some... there's a weird father and son dynamic, which is sort of unspoken, but it's there.
Okay.
The son has this weird, I'm super small next to my dad.
That's interesting. I never picked that up.
Because then you can see, right? Is
that an OT projection?
Bro, as an African kid, I know.
Well, show us your African Blue movie version then.
I can't even draw parallels to this movie. This movie is wild.
But I think the beauty of Visitor Q is, whether you ground this film or not, the elements of storytelling are so fucking compelling. Like it really, really, really just works. But let's move on in our theme. So these are the direction/stylistic choices we have from Rob. Unflinching graphic nature of the violence. I would also put a two-prong here, because I feel like there was like physical violence as well as sexual violence. There were some rape scenes in here as well.
There are myriad of examples of that. I think we get to see not only the father perpetrating violence against women. We see the son being bullied, and we see the son bullying the mother. This movie has a lot of that going on. Even the easiest sort of I think this was the least violent things was the visitor hitting them with on the head.
Yeah, exactly, right? If anything, that was just to, again, like you say, shock the system and like get them to pull it the fuck together.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. That's interesting. Unflinching is absolutely the word, Rob. There were scenes in this film that were absolutely tilt my head back, have a good giggle, gaggle, cackle, right? But there were other scenes that were absolutely uncomfortable to fucking watch.
Yeah.
Right? And it really brings together a great sort of balance of, heaviness and levity. But in regards to this particular theme that Rob is talking about, it was unflinching, especially the sexual violence that was in this film as well. But I would say when the dad was going out trying to interview the youth, that was one of the best scenes of this film. I would also say, we talked about the uncomfortable, surrealist sort of nature of the opening scene. There were also a couple of scenes along the way, but once we got to the moment of him in the car, re-watching the footage of him essentially getting sodomized with his own microphone.
And they shared that video.
But that's absolutely what I wrote down as well, especially if we're talking about whether we think this is real or not, because I don't prescribe to toxic masculinity, but I also don't understand why. Why would he share it? Because it seems like he showed his whole workplace.
He did. And the weird thing is, because there's a scene of him showing us the video, right? Him playing it back, and you can see there's some emotion to it.
Yeah.
He feels sad and bad. And I thought, he got...
It's shame. Yeah. Like, he's keeping it to himself. It's
exactly.
Shame. Yeah.
Only to find out later they actually shared it with the whole office.
Yeah, he did private screenings. Private screenings of his colonoscopy.
Oh, man. Wild.
But I would say, if we're talking about Friends and Lovers, also check out BJ Novak's, is it called The Premise?
Yeah.
Also, Daniel Daddy Kim and butt plugs. Like, it sounds like an AI built by me, but it's a real storyline in that particular show. But that's when I was all the way in with this film. I'm like, okay, there's something here. There's something here. You know, even when we talk about whether this is real or not, even knowing that, you know, this has kind of been baked into our reference degustation, you know, there was a part of me that was like, oh my goodness, like, you know, we go all the way there, but this is like in a different dimension. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But once we got to that scene and, you know, all of the payoffs along the way in the rest of the film, I was like, okay, this is us. Like, this is a little bit of us. Let's go into the next theme here. This is from Ben. The interaction between sex and violence.
Again, myriad of examples in this, with the father especially.
Oh, yes.
You know, he feels emasculated, you know, early bird and all that. And he perpetrates a lot of sexual violence on other people. And that includes the daughter in that as well.
Yeah. He also says this line, I think he says it to the corpse. He says he's exploring who he is as a father, and it wasn't sadness or anger. Some things in life are truly strange. And this is about him being aroused at the idea of being emasculated. And, you know, here's a father whose son gets beaten up, and it's him taking control. Again, we're really taking it to another level, necrophilic in this particular instance. But he feels so fucking emasculated that he gains power in being able to, you know, follow through in that scene.
Yeah. Or even when he was talking about the son being bullied, or essence of him feeling, some essence of arousal.
Yeah.
Which, bro. Again, this movie is not for everyone.
But you don't need to do that. Like, you don't need to preface it. Like, there are many films out there that people will try and it's not for them, and that's absolutely fine. Unless you feel like, you know, the perfume of this film is going to like emanate, you know, and remain within your bosom, then feel free. But I'm not going to preface anything. I fucking love this film.
I enjoyed it too.
You don't love the mysteries of life being so amazing? It's not a mystery of life, it's shit. We also need to point out he continued even after he said that, though.
Yup.
I will point out again, I don't think there are a lot of moments of sex that wasn't related to, you know, being non-consensual. However, if we're talking about sexual liberation, tick, 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 10, 10, 10s all across the board.
Mm-hmm.
Next theme we'll get into is brutal justification to right the wrongs. And this is from Rob.
Yeah. And this is when we get to see them learning from their mistakes and taking back what they'd lost in their family.
Absolutely.
Be it their methods are a bit too extreme.
You're still nipple footing around this, aren't you?
No, but it's true. They did something about the son getting bullied. They righted that wrong in the most extreme version I've ever seen.
But like, you're not even hard, bro. Like, they're kids. You're murdering these children.
Acting like Rambo.
But it wasn't a perfect own. Like, bruh, children. That's not even a flex.
It's a flex to them. Whatever brings the family closer, isn't it?
That little ooh moment in the bathtub.
Yeah. Because the first time I watched it, I thought, the mother would be really angry at the, you know, what the fuck?
Yeah.
We got to see her be a bit suspicious when, you know, she was trying to have sex with the husband and she smelled that, you know, some pussy juice on her, on him.
So let's, I guess we can dabble into what's real and what's not. So it was clear that she smelled pussy juice, like you said. But do you think she knew to the nth degree that it was the daughter, or she just knew?
She wouldn't know it's the daughter, but I don't know. Maybe she was like, you said you went to see our daughter. Maybe there was that conversation.
I see.
But I don't think there's a correlation between pussy juice and you linking it to your daughter.
I see. Well, I think that's a perfect segue, OT. This comes from Ben, and a lot of Ben's contributions to Takashi Miike's filmography absolutely makes sense now. A lot of Ben's contributions, this one in particular, unchecked desire / passions.
Yeah. And the taboo aspect of this movie, from necrophilia to incest.
Yeah.
Things that aren't really talked about that much.
Yeah.
But we know that happens.
Or it's played for dramatic romance in a George R.R. Martin show.
Oh.
Whether it be brother, sister, or niece and uncle.
Yeah. Wild. Look at you.
Yeah. Do they all have to be blonde?
I think that's the criteria.
Fair.
Only blonde people can do incest. Otherwise, it's just gross.
Well, I think I'm safe in that sense.
Ew. Get those blonde extensions, man.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you think your comments on Visitor Q is what's going to get you in trouble? Well, since you covered the heavy ones, I'm going to talk about pleasuring the mama.
Nice.
Okay, so I feel like this is the perfect time, and obviously we're going to move on to other things. Friends and lovers, I am a strong advocator and I will forever be pulling my beacon on the bean flicker couch, okay? It's very important, especially because we live in a world where we as women are raised and taught and, disciplined into the pleasure of a man. That's the way we navigate into this world. And if we have children, our sexual desires are even more pushed further beneath the surface, right? I am all about sexual liberation. And if you don't know where your clit is, don't fucking talk to me.
Wow.
If you can't flick your nipple, don't talk to me.
Who knew YG needed a spin-off?
If you don't wriggle the back end, don't talk to me. But I'm serious, we need to take ownership of our own sexual pleasure. And who knew it took a Takashi Miike reference degustation to perfectly illustrate my point? Mm-hmm. And perhaps Takashi Miike looked into the future and he saw our past, OT.
Yeah. Encapsulated by the perfect comment the mother made. I'm not weird. I'm not strange. I'm just a normal woman.
Thank you, Shania O.T. Twain.
And I've been doing the work.
Well, you've been bean flicking and that's been most pleasurable and I thank you.
Yeah, the mere fact I have a bean anyway.
It's Visitor OT in our house, friends and lovers. We like to keep it spicy. But I absolutely love the angle of sexual liberation, especially when it comes to women in general, yes. But I guess we're also talking about a woman that has children and, she really put it to the side. And what I really loved, like friends and lovers, for those that are screenwriters, if the character development of Keiko and her discovering her body and being able to make herself lactate has more character development than anyone in your screenplay, then put it in the bin.
Yeah, and this is where you get to see the folly, right? In the movie Leo Grande, you get Emma Thompson, who's like, oh, I'll never do this, and shaming everyone to the wazoo.
Fucking doxing Leo Grande. But don't do that. I'm floating on a nipple cloud right now, and you're bringing me back to earth.
No, I'm saying she needed the Keiko treatment.
Yeah.
To just liberate the shit out of that.
Yeah. And it's like, you didn't really want to explore your own body. You just wanted to feel good. Fuck off. If you can't make yourself feel good, how's Leo Grande going to help you?
He ain't.
We also saw him in a recent show, and even he can't help that show. But we love you, my friend. I'm sure we'll see you in many other things. But I just wanted to spend a little bit of time. I am, pussy forward. I am nipple forward. And I absolutely love being able to discuss that, right? Squirt, squirt from the nips or the clit. I am all for that.
Nice.
And if you think that was too much, then you obviously haven't watched this film, friends and lovers.
Everything you say or see or hear is tame compared to what you've watched.
This is my fucking final form, At times when people watch The Boys, I'm like, if you watch The Boys, you don't have a problem listening to our podcast. And now we have Visitor Q. So I obviously have a lot more to work up to, OT. I haven't even reached my final form yet.
No, we need to rail that shit in.
You want to rail me?
We need to rail that in.
Are you OT A-Train? You see, friends and lovers, it's getting the juices flowing.
Jesus.
Yeah, Jesus can come too. It's a whole station. Black Jesus and white Jesus.
Wow.
Yeah, it sounds like you're at fruition now.
Mm-hmm.
So let's get into casting and characters. Ben, women in dominant positions. I think I literally just covered that.
You sure did.
Yeah. So let's move into just general sort of thoughts. Are there any other characters you wanted to talk about? We talked about the son a little bit. Is there anything else you wanted to say about the son?
I felt sorry for the son.
Oh, so now you feel sorry for him?
On the second viewing, I felt sorry for him because you can see there's definitely neglect going on there. He doesn't know anyone to turn to.
Yeah, but we've also talked about on the podcast that something that globally bonds you from Africa and me living in Australia but being a Pacific Islander is that we got beat as kids, right? So, as much as we probably said, if I have children, I'm never going to beat my kids, or, just wanting to like retaliate, you never would because you'll turn out like this kid. And that's gross.
Yeah, I hear you, but there was some stuff going on there. And to the fact that at the end, when the parents do step in and help him out, he turns a new leaf.
No, I think...
He even says to the visitor, hey, I thought you came here to destroy your family, but thank you. Because he sees everything now.
So, friends and lovers, stick with me. But I am seeing threads of Rest in Love and Peace and Power, John Singleton. I'm seeing threads of the Singleton universe and the Mickey universe. It starts with Tyrese as a fucking embryo and it ends with this kid in his mother's cum.
What a scene. What a scene.
I dare you, friends and lovers, to find other critics that can make that connection. He's just a baby boy, OT.
That he is.
Ooh. I don't know if it's a post-coitus cigarette. I don't know if it's a cold shower. I don't even know if we'll ever be the same again, OT.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any closing thoughts?
It's definitely been a journey with this movie. And I think with every rewatch from here on out, we'll probably discover something new. We'll have a different trail of thought.
Yep.
But I'm intrigued to see the other Mickey movies. And wow.
I also want to just have a callback because in Audition, we talked about pixelated porn and we saw it in this film.
Yeah.
Usually, friends and lovers, this is where we do our For Your Reference segment. But because we are celebrating 4 years of the podcast, we are recommending this set menu of Audition, Visitor Q, upcoming Itchy the Killer.
Woo-woo.
I've really been looking forward to this film, but obviously we needed to get Visitor Q done. And then also First Love.
Nice.
OT's my first love.
Oh, look at you getting all sentimental.
I don't usually do this, OT.
Ah.
On Twitter and Instagram, we're at For Your Effort.
Write us an email at hello@podcast.com.
We're also on The Mysteries of Life Are Amazing.
Or no, they're not. It's shit.
Podcast if you like to leave a rating or review. And we'll see you guys for the next course.
See ya.
Bye.